Welcome, everyone, to the Win Now podcast, hosted by Deborah Byrd, founder and CEO of Plug and Play SM.
I am so excited for today's show, so let's go.
And then myself, Todd Bookspan, founder of Win by Noon. I think the most famous one is Warren Buffett. He always said, I say no to 99 things before I say yes to one. And Steve Jobs was the same way. You look up stuff like that, he would say no to hundreds of ideas before he picked the one thing that was amazing.
I've gotten better and better each year where I won't even look at my phone or my email, like any notifications. In fact, if you've ever texted me before noon, I likely don't respond. It was the people pleaser, like say yes to everything and then regret it and resent it later because I was trying to be all things to everybody.
What was on my calendar? I was going to move it unless it was my kids doing something at school because I was the dad who always showed up. So welcome to another episode of the Win Now podcast. I am Todd Bookspan, the founder of Win by Noon.
And I am Deborah Byrd, the founder of Plug and Play SM. I feel like I have to do this every time now, Todd.
I know, it's pretty good. It's too bad that people are listening to this and not always watching it. So if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple or wherever you're listening to this, you next time need to watch it because we got one of these things going on. I don't even know if I did it.
I'm just pumping my arms like.
You're pumping your arms.
Yes.
But that's great. That's how excited we are to share all these things.
What are we talking about today? Tell us.
This is the no episode. Capital N, capital O with a big exclamation point.
Okay. And why did you choose this as the topic?
Well, over the last 8 years, I've taught Win by Noon. And at the very end, I talk about the fact that when you're going to manage your calendar proactively, one of the biggest things you have to do is be comfortable saying no. If you're familiar with the DISC, high eyes, the people who are, oh, woo, like that's me. I'm a 99I. You're raising your hand too. And we love to say yes. And so what I find is that most people in sales are I's. There's some of you who are D's. We're still friends. It's cool. We got a lot of SCs around us as well, which I love. But the I's we're the life of the party. At least we think we are. And we love to say yes because we don't want to have someone be frustrated or upset. And so what I always talk about is my script. I call it my magic script. It's the thing that more people say to me they've gotten the most benefit from.
Which my sister actually wrote this down, or I think you even wrote it on a sticky note, and she still has it to this day.
Oh yeah, that's it. And it's I have a commitment at that time was my magic script. I say you can say no, right? But we don't want to say no. And then you could say no, thank you, and be polite. And then I have another next slide says no, thank you, and it's SpongeBob and it's got a rainbow over it, so it's like got a big smile on his face. But really, I've got a commitment at that time, and that commitment is to lots of different things, lots of different people. That commitment is to yourself, right? Because you need to prioritize what's good for you. It's to your family. It's to your legacy. It's if you're in business, it's to your clients. You got to be the best for your business by putting out the other people so you can be the best for your clients. It's to your partners. If you've got business partners, because you want to be the best to represent them by not saying yes to something that you shouldn't do. So there's just so many reasons that we need to say no. So what inspired me was, me, I'm always listening to podcasts, and I heard Cal Newport. He wrote the book Deep Work and Breaking Up with Your Email. And he said that the biggest thing that he did to simplify his life last year was he went from a default of yes, which is what I believe most of us have, is we have a default. Someone says something, we're looking for reasons to say no. He said, I had to turn that around. He said, because since my book sold 2 million copies in 45 languages, he said, I get offered some really freaking cool opportunities. And he said, a lot of them, because I'm a professor, he's a professor at Georgetown University, are even for more money than what he makes in a year as a professor. But he said he found himself saying yes to some things that really weren't lined up. So he said he had to flip it. So now he has a default filter of no. His default is no. And I thought, like that for someone who talks about this all the time and believes in it, I'm like, that is a different way to look at it. And so his default, and he's got 2 criteria. Number one, is it a really cool opportunity where he can bring his family? So like if, I don't know where his family wants to go, maybe they want to go to Italy and someone in Italy offers him to speak and they'll basically pay him to take a vacation with his family, then that's definitely a yes. So that'll turn a no to a yes. Or he said it's got to be a really cool opportunity. He used a different way, but I would say with low friction. Like it's got to be really convenient was the word that he used. And so he used an example of Masterclass, that thing you can subscribe to.
I was trying to what would be a really cool opportunity
So I've got a subscription to Masterclass. Now I'm going to watch his. But he said Masterclass made it really easy. They came to Washington, D.C. They rented a big part of a hotel. They brought 20 people there. They set up a studio, a full studio there. And like the guy who was the director was like a famous director of TV shows and stuff. And they literally made it so easy and convenient for him that he's like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have said that yes to this sooner. But they made it convenient. That was the key for him. And so I thought, okay, that was pretty cool. And so what I realized is that most of us don't have any filters of what to say yes or no to. I mean, like, have you thought through that for yourself?
So I'm getting better.
Okay.
I was the people pleaser, like say yes to everything and then regret it and resent it later because I was trying to be all things to everybody. So it's getting better.
I think the challenge is it's the whole idea of like what Tim Ferriss would call his not to do list. Like, what are the things that I'm not going to
Oh,
do? And so I think it's what are the filters of the things that no longer really serve you that you might say yes to. Sometimes it's to a person. It could be like easy one is like at work when people walk in and got a minute and we all want to go, of course I got a minute. Or hey, can you grab coffee with me? Yes. And then you're like sitting there going, well, why the heck did I say yes to this coffee? Like I got so many things I need to be doing for myself, for my business, for my family. I'd rather be at lunch with my spouse or whatever that is. And you're like, oh, I'm sitting with this person. And I don't want to sound like a jerk when I say it, but I mean, in the end, your time is your most valuable asset. And we all have the same 24 hours a day and you got to do the best things to drive and push you forward. And now we're all going to make mistakes. I still know that this week I'll say yes to something and afterwards go, gosh, that wasn't the best yes that I said. But what I've become is pretty crystal clear about things that I will and won't do. And I mean, you and I, we get asked to come speak all the time.
mm,
And, I originally would speak because it gave me the opportunity to sell Win by Noon, right? So at first I was paying my own airfare, paying my own hotel, and I get to speak, but I get to sell a few planners and the planners would maybe cover, my meals. It didn't cover a whole lot, but it was good. It got me exposure, got me experience. And not that I wouldn't do that now if the opportunity was big enough, but now you and I get paid to go somewhere
mhm.
and speak. And so again, I don't want to look like a jerk, but you also have to set kind of a floor for a price on what that looks like. You have to think through it ahead of time, or you have to say, hey, that's a great question. I'm gonna need to think on and get back to you. I think that's the other part of it is that oftentimes we feel like we have to give an answer right there.
Ooh, that's good.
Well, I see this all the time in sales. Like I saw a loan officer once get fired from a really big account that they were working because not once, but twice, but the third time that they did something on the fly and gave the wrong answer to it, that the person was like, we're done with you. Versus just saying, you know what, that's a great question. I think
Mm,
I know the answer, but let me just confirm it before I give you bad advice. Or if you're in loan business, say, hey, that's a great question. The guideline on that recently changed because recently, I mean, they change all the time. There's some guideline that changed, this morning. Let me just let me just double check that. Or like in this loan officer's case, they were driving in their car and they calculated a number and they left out PMI. And so they were just driving, they weren't thinking about it. They literally were driving, probably at a stoplight, giving numbers to somebody that something that was important to the other person instead of saying, gosh, you know what? I just left your office. I'm driving. I'll be to my office in 15 minutes. Can I just call you then so I make sure it's accurate? And so you have to sometimes be okay with giving that script. So that'd be my other
mm,
script. Hey, that's a great question. I want to make sure I get the answer right. But I think this whole idea of having a not to do list. And so there's some other famous people who've talked about it. So I did a little preparation for my no call with you.
look at you.
And I think the most famous one is Warren Buffett. He always said, I say no to 99 things before I say yes to one. And I think it's even probably more than that. He got opportunity after opportunity after opportunity every single day that he just said no to. And then he only moved strategically when it made huge sense. I think a lot of people oftentimes jump at something that's mediocre and therefore they say yes to it. A perfect example is I have a friend who does private lending and his kind of average interest rate is 12%. And someone said, hey, I got a couple other offers from local people at 10%, but I wanted to give you a shot in case you wanted the deal. And it would have been nice to do this guy a favor. He was kind of someone he felt was pretty influential, but he just had to draw his line that, you know what, no, my list, my not to do, my line in the sand is
Mm,
is my 12%. And now you could have said, well, maybe he could have said, oh, I'll do the 10%, but I'll charge you 4 points. Or there's probably some other way to structure it where he could have come out the same. But he just, instead of wasting his time, just said flat out no, because the guy just wanted a deal. And so that's the kind of a classic sales takeaway. But I think Warren Buffett is a great example. Steve Jobs was the same way. If you look up stuff like that, he would say no to hundreds of ideas before he picked the one thing that was amazing. I mean, that's the thing you've seen with Apple is that they've been
mm,
pretty crystal clear, right? We do the Mac, We
Yeah.
got the MacBook and the MacBook Air, and we've got Apple TV, and they got one model probably of that, and then we've got a watch now. And so they have expanded their product line, but they don't have a gajillion things like Dell. I mean, Dell has printers and you name it, they do it, monitors and all sorts of stuff. And Apple hasn't gone down that path.
I
Um,
will tell you what I was probably giving myself too much credit for this, and not to say this just because you're Mr. Win by Noon, but it probably wasn't until 2018. I want to say it was 2017, 2018 when I got my first Win by Noon planner. And I really bought into the winning before noon. And I've gotten better and better each year where I won't even look at my phone or my emails, like any notifications. In fact, if you've ever texted me before noon, I likely don't respond and then I'm trying to play catch up later. But I get really committed of what are my top three priorities of the day and have them time blocked before noon. And I just barricade myself so that I can't possibly put myself in a position to maybe say yes to a longer conversation. Maybe a text is like, "Hey, can you hop on the phone real quick, or can you do a video real quick for this?" The old me would typically be like, "Oh yeah, I could do that real quick." And what seems to be like a 30-second deal turns into being longer because maybe I don't like the lighting, or then I get distracted, and then maybe I send it, and all that would rob me throughout the day. And I know my time window is narrow, especially when I have kids to pick up. So I try to get as much done in it, especially my top three priorities before noon, so that way, if I do say yes to something, like I've already gotten the things that I had to get done for the day, they're done. I can kind of breathe a little bit.
I think that's one is I'm proud of you. That's awesome. I
Thank
mean,
you.
but I see that too, right? Because I see it when I text you. I'm like, what? Why should not text
Yeah.
me back? And so I think the key lesson here is number one is you're crystal clear on your top priorities, and then two is you have to create boundaries for yourself. I always joke I have to protect myself from myself. So I'm literally up here in Club 44, and there's just nothing. There's not even anything on the walls yet.
Which
But
for
it's empty.
high eye people, that's important because we can get distracted by anybody that comes our way, you
Well,
know?
and that's it. So there's nothing here that distracts me around me. So I've also had to set up my environment this way. But I've got a slide when I present, and it's like the horse blinders, and then it's
Mhm.
got human blinders. It's got a little guy cartoon of a guy sitting there. But we have to create these things for ourselves because that's really where we're like, oh, and it's kind of like why I have all my notifications turned off. Like I know right now I've got lots of email, but so it doesn't really what's the notification do is if it's one or 101, it doesn't really matter. I know it's there, but if it was as the number grew, I used to create stress for me. Now I don't
Yes.
have that. I don't have that stress. And so it's a matter, I think, of getting comfortable with the discomfort or the uncomfortable or
That's the
whatever you say.
hardest part because you worry what's building,
So I'll go off on a slight tangent on this then too. Part of that's just how do you set up expectations?
Mm.
We've got so many salespeople who are watching us and they want to be, as our friend Dave Sowd would say, speed to need. And so part of it's just setting up the right expectations with people. I mean, I talk about that. I educated the partners that I work with on, hey, I'm going to focus my mornings on doing my proactive activities so I can be better at converting your leads and serving you and your clients. I said, but if you've got something that's urgent, then if you're going to send me a lead, I'm going to respond to it on it. And I'm on it. And that just meant I'm on it. I'm gonna call it today. Most people drop everything and call it. So I said, what I want you to do is a coaching, is what I'll say instead of training. I would say, hey, if the person's expecting my call now, say, hey, I know you're super busy. Is there any chance you can call this person now? And I said, hey, I'll tell you this though, probably your best bet isn't to ever say, can you call this person now? Because you know me, I'm meeting with people and doing all these things all the time. But you could also say, hey, maybe it's 9:30 now. Maybe say, hey, are you available till 11? Can I have Todd call you by 11? And then say, hey, can you call this person before 11? And I could say, yep, on it. And then I could call them at 10:55 if I wanted to. But then I could keep working on my things until then. So I said, if it's urgent, give me the time frame that you've committed me to.
Mm.
But I said, if not, just know I'm going to get a hold of them as quick as I can at my earliest convenience. And being transparent with people, then I didn't feel the stress anymore that they thought I was going to be doing
Mm.
that. It's part of the reason that I think I can ignore email more than other people because I always said, gosh, if it's an email, that's not important, right? I mean, if it's a little bit more urgent, then maybe it should be in a text. And back then it was a phone call, but I've got my little fancy winning by noon on my phone, right? Apple has a focus. You can create a custom focus. So my focus goes on and it says winning by noon and turn it on till
I should
noon.
probably set that up. Like I even made a post about that of how to even turn that on, but I've never turned off notifications. In fact, it drives my husband crazy that I have all the red dots with like, 100
I
plus.
think you need to train yourself to look at certain things
Mhm.
like I'm in a WhatsApp group, right? We
Yes,
are for
gosh.
exactly what to say. And so for a while, I had to turn that on. So I would look at that, but now they're turned off. But like even my computer right now, I've got my text message, I've got Slack, I've got WhatsApp, I've got my email, and there's no notifications
I
and
have to
they're
stop
only
wearing my
text
Apple
messages.
Watch because that became an issue. It would
Yeah.
vibrate and I'm sure I could turn that off, but I would get sucked in. and I had to remove it.
I got
Otherwise,
I got rid of mine too. My phone keeps
mm,
wanting me to know if I want to update it because I haven't updated it in so long. Same.
glasses, like I wonder how that's going to impact productivity with all
Yeah,
the,
so I got rid of on my phone when I had my watch, I only used it as an alarm clock and to tell time. So it was just a watch anyway
yeah.
for me. But I turned all that stuff off. But I think again, you have to decide what level of craziness you want.
Mm.
So let me put a bow on this, and then
Okay.
you can kind of ask me other questions that you have. I think there's some other people that talk really well around this. Greg McEwen, who does Essentialism, is his book. It's one of the gifts from my good buddy, Coach Michael Regan, that he's one of his favorite books, but he says be slow to yes and quick to no. So I think it's just kind of another take on it. And then I think probably the one that has resonated with me the most up until that no is now my default was Derek Sivers, and his is it's got to be a hell yeah or a no. If it's not a hell yeah, because again, I think we say things that are kind of average, but I don't think you know what a hell yeah is unless you've really defined what that looks like. Right. Last year, when you couldn't speak at a mortgage company and then you referred it to me, thank you again. You're my best booking agent. They took it and said, hey, we'll get you a VIP day. Thanks, Andy Zeman, at Disneyland for you and your wife. And my wife said, hell no. So I took all my kids, which was great. But that was like, that made it so easy to say hell yeah to it. It's
Mm.
one thing to fly across the country to a mortgage opportunity to speak, but it's another than to actually have that thrown in. I was like, that took something that was already a paying gig and it made it from a, oh, that's a pretty much a yes to a, oh, hell yeah. And so I like that. He just said that way you're saying no and to things that don't truly matter. That was kind of
Mm.
his little sidebar to it. So I think the bottom line is that I think
Part of me being a good booking agent for you is because I learned to say no. And
that
it
is
all
true.
came from this picture that I saw of how much time you have left with your kids once they leave your house, like once they leave the nest. Like it's shortened quite a bit. And so I have one that's a sophomore, and I'm like, okay, this is our last 4 years with her under our roof where we have the entire family together. This is my priority. Like I want to be present for them because I also know high school is a very tough time. And so I've learned to say no and not feel guilty about it anymore because I know I have someone else that I can refer them to that would be just as great,
I
you
know.
know?
I think they think that like I want to have Deborah, nice female, and then oh, we get this older dude named Todd. That's we can say,
Whatever. Wisdom.
but I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that.
Yes.
Thank you. And but I think it says a lot though, right? That you figured that out. So we'll do a podcast in the future on how to prioritize like the big rocks. I think that would be
Oh, that'd
maybe
be
a good
good.
conversation to have if anyone's sort of struggling with that. But I think the bottom line is this: is that if you've listened this far, thank you. And I think that you have an opportunity to just do a quick, check up from the neck up, right, with yourself on what am I saying yes to, and just literally look at either today, if it's the end of the day, or look at yesterday. That you don't need to go back further. Don't have regret, right? You can't change what you said yes to before, but just think what's a recent experience I had where I said yes to something that I really thought I should have, that now I think I should have said no to, and try to work ahead of that for the next time. How would I get out of that? Just remember, no, I've got a commitment at that time is a really great way to say it. Or just, gosh, I don't have my calendar in front of me. Let me get back to you. And then you may or may not ever get back to them. Darren Hardy would call that a calibration meeting, right? You look at your calendar on Sunday for the week ahead and then look at it and calibrate. Are these meetings that I have, are they all in line with my goals? And oftentimes what we find is we have things on there that don't really drive us. But I can tell you, like for me today, I got up, went to the gym, had coffee. My daughter's in town from New York, yay! And went to the gym, had my personal coaching call. Then I recorded a podcast. Then I taught a class to a big group of real estate agents. And then I'm doing this with you. So like these are all things that are a hell yeah to me. Like I really enjoy doing. And so my little reminder for that is I have a little dish. It's like this big. So it's like the size of a silver dollar, like the old kind of silver dollar for people who are really old, but call it maybe an inch in diameter, inch, and it's a little like cup, like a little tray thing, and it says hell yeah stamped into it. I bought at an art fair with my kids. And
I almost
so
like that better than the do not do list, is make the hell yeah list.
yeah, that's it. Like, I
Love
mean,
that.
I think there's a lot of things that we want to do more of. So like for me, I want
Mhm.
to I want to do more podcasts. I want to speak more. I want to teach more, whether it's in person or in Zoom, right? And so I think it's a matter of knowing what that is, so that it's super easy the next time you have that opportunity, and then work it around your schedule and be crystal clear on where you can fit those things in. So that would be the last thing I'll say is understand your calendar and know what is that what does that look like? And then be okay saying yes to a really great opportunity at the wrong time. I'll give one last story on that. So I was super good at protecting my calendar. Someone would say, Todd, can you meet me for coffee? And I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, I got a commitment at that time. Hey, how about we meet for coffee in the afternoon instead tomorrow at 2 o'clock? And they'd be like, sure, most of the time. And then they'd be like, oh, no, I can't do tomorrow too. I'm like, well, what about Friday at noon? Let's meet for lunch. And they'd be like, because this is someone I wanted to meet with. And they were maybe one notch below a hell yeah. And they're like, yeah, no, but whatever. And so, but I found if I gave people two or three options, they normally said yes. And if not, I just said, grass, well, let me do this. Let me call you Monday when I'm setting my calendar for next week. And then I probably never called them because I'm like, if you're that difficult to meet with, you can only meet me, to hell yeah, and then we'll do that. But when the builder that we've been trying to get for 3.5 years said, hey, can you meet the president of the company at 10 a.m. on Thursday? I didn't say, oh, I've got a commitment at that time. I was like,
Let me
hell
check my
yeah, I'll be
calendar.
there.
Yeah, that's a hell yeah. I'll
Right.
be
Well, it
there.
didn't matter what was on my calendar. I was going to move it unless it was my kids doing something at school because I was the dad who always showed up. So
Aw.
so that's the no episode. I'd love your feedback on it. And I also want to have one more ask for you. I haven't run this by Deborah yet, so if you never see these episodes, then this was just a bad ask. But I feel like what we need to do is our win now is we want to find some quick hits of someone that's successful in life, in sales or whatever. We've got a list of people that we're going to bring on as guests here in the near future, but I want to know, who do you want to have on the guest? Who's someone in your world that's super successful? Financial advisor, real estate agent, loan officer, whatever it is they do, car salesperson. It doesn't matter to me. I want someone who you think is super successful so that we can have a win now. I don't know what my brain says quick hits, but there's probably something else. But we want to have a quick 20-minute conversation, plus or minus, with people that you see that are winning, that you would love us to dig a little deeper with them on how and why they're winning so that we can share it with you and your friends.
And how do they share that with us, Todd?
I think that you should tell us. Maybe social media would be my guess.
So you guys can DM either Todd Bookspan or I on social media. You could also email Todd at winbynoon. I'm just gonna throw that out there, Todd.
That,
Todd
that's
at
great.
winbynoon.com, which is also how you could book Todd. Like if you guys are looking for a speaker or you need your own podcast interview, like you just heard him say, he's looking to get on more stages and do more of those. So just make sure you make it a hell yeah for him, maybe a VIP trip.
Well,
No,
let me
I'm
just say
kidding.
this too. Is it also make it so that so Deborah can leave her family for a couple of days to come hang out with you. But
Yeah.
uh, as always, we're super grateful that you took the time to listen or watch this. Please, if you haven't done so, I listened to the Diary of a CEO, and he's like, please be one of the. He's got an accent. I can't imitate it, but he's like, please be one of the 24% of people who listen to my podcast and subscribe. So I don't even know if we have 24% of our listeners who subscribe. I'd like to think more of our listeners subscribe than that. But if you haven't, please do so. That's really good for us to help get us better guests in the future like it. I know there's someone else in your world, maybe your spouse, maybe someone you work with who you think should say no more. Please share this with them. And any feedback you have, let us know.
All right. So all you have to do is win now.